Before I had the option to have a note-taking software, I used to have my assistant sit in the meeting and take notes. And sometimes they would miss the parts that were important to me. Of course, we record every meeting as well, but I want to know exactly the promises that I made, the things that I have said to people that we could do for them. And sometimes I'll just completely forget after the meeting. Sometimes I hyper focus on the wrong things, and having somebody who can, again, not shame me by saying, Mel, we talked about this. Why don't you just go over there? But now I'm going to talk about the power of having someone who understands your brain. I did not understand my brain for a long time, and I still struggle with self-confidence, moments of self-doubt when I feel like I'm not explaining myself. People like me, we tend to be over-explainers. We are external communicators. I am somebody who has to talk things out into the world. Like, the words can't stay in my head. There's not enough room in there. I have to talk it out and then throw it into the world. And whoever's in front of me, I'm talking my ideas about to. Well, I feel sorry for them, but that's how I get the things out of my head. Somebody like Matt, my husband, he is an internal processor most of the time. He's not talking out all of his ideas. He's figuring it out in his brain, and then he just says only the words that need to be said once he's made decisions. I am so not like that. And I think for people like him, they see my need to talk things out as chaotic, or sometimes it may seem ditzy to people. I've heard people say that about me as well. And they're just not like me, so they don't get it. And I have to be okay with that. You know, I'm not for everybody. I definitely have accepted that this is a part of my processing journey. I have to talk it out. And having somebody who understands that is so important. So I'm going to talk about some of the things that having somebody by my side, the Melody manager, my executive assistant, has helped me to be able to do. It definitely reduces my anxiety about communication, so I don't have to explain as much or justify my thought process, which is usually what I end up doing in the world, because, you know, I can just send, voice memos or make Loom videos, send my half-formed ideas, and trust that my assistant will understand, or the person I'm working with will understand. And I've gotten better about being more thoughtful in the way that I communicate things, and I continue to improve on that. I also have felt and continue to feel a lot of shame and self-judgment about the way I communicate and the way that my brain works. I feel stupid sometimes that I don't remember how to start a Zoom meeting, but I have 3 different Zoom accounts, and every time I go to start it optimistically, I forget, oh yeah, it's going to make me log in. And then I have to remember that my LastPass has 3 different ones. And then I have to go into LastPass, and it's never just a 1 or 2 step process. And if it's anything more than 2 steps, you can be assured that I am going to have to exert tremendous amounts of energy to be able to remember how to do it. And so on the one hand, I made a decision that I was going to let my assistant start my Zoom meetings for me always, that they would bring in my notes taker, my note taker, which is, Firefly. If you don't use a note taker, you should, because I am also somebody who needs to be fully focused on the conversation and should not be taking notes. Before I had the option to have like a notes taker or software, before I had the option to have a note-taking software, I used to have my assistant sit in the meeting and take notes. And sometimes they would miss the parts that were important to me. Of course, we record every meeting as well, but I want to know exactly the promises that I made, the things that I have said to people that we could do for them. And sometimes I'll just completely forget after the meeting. Sometimes I hyper focus on the wrong things, and having somebody who can, again, not shame me by saying, Mel, we talked about this. Why don't you just go over there? I've had assistants in the past who would get frustrated with me when I didn't remember where certain documents were that we used all the time. And what they didn't understand about me is it's not me being lazy, or I have hundreds of documents that I have access to, and I probably have about 100 that are important. And so even though I use certain ones all the time, it takes energy valuable energy for me to go and find those documents. And remember, just the name of those documents sometimes is like really frustrating because I named them and I can't find them. So since then, trained my assistant to give me the link, even if they think I have it, because it takes away some of my thinking that's going to be hard for me and take up my energy, my very valuable energy. And I can also admit that I'm feeling scattered and overwhelmed and not feel like I'm a failure during those moments. I'm not the kind of leader who feels like I have to pretend, that I've always got my shit together, that I always know what I'm doing. I think part of my superpower, if I'm a good leader at all, it's that I really lead alongside of people as much as possible. And I also am very vulnerable about my areas of weakness because I want them to understand why I make certain decisions in the company. And, when I talk about things that we do for clients, I want them to understand that I'm looking at it from the perspective of, the weaknesses that a lot of us struggle with. And some people are not willing to talk about those things, but I am. And so just being willing to talk about it allows for my team to be better because they understand, there's a reason that we're going to, enact this program for clients. And even though the clients haven't told us they need it, well, sometimes our clients are not the kinds of leaders who want to talk about their weakness, right? So we're trying to just support them in as many ways as we can, even when those ways seem invisible. So I also feel like I can share, and I kind of mentioned this, but I can share like my crazy ideas and I don't feel like I'm going to be judged most of the time. Sometimes even I know that it might be too much for my team to take on, but I will still put it out there because if I don't put it out there, it takes up so much space in my head and it's all I'll think about. And so that's also a really important thing that I try to do. Listen, Misfit, if you believe in the mission of this podcast, I need you to like and subscribe right now. Pause this, go find the podcast. You might already be there, which is easy. Just go like and subscribe. And if you really, really believe in it and you want Misfits to unite and change the whole business world, please rate it. Rating is the best way to get the word out to attract more like-minded misfits like you and me so that we can overthrow the takers of this world who currently dominate the business universe. Now, I know I sound like I'm some courageous lady of business. I am not. I can't do this alone and I don't want to. I need you and we need a coalition of fellow misfits. So do it now. The quicker we take action, the quicker we can change our business world. Now let's go do great things, and I will see you next week. I'm a misfit. I'm a misfit. I'm a misfit. I'm a misfit.